I've never been a fan of open world games, which is why I've never really been interested in games like Legend of Zelda. I just don't like these types of games because of how long it takes to complete them, so I've never really seen the hype around them. But when I decided to play Mario Odyssey for the first time back in 2023, I actually enjoyed it, and I want to tell you guys why. But before we start, comment what you think of Mario Odyssey. But without further ado, let's get started. Before we get into the retrospective, let's talk about his early life. After Super Mario Galaxy and 3D World, Shigeru Miyamoto wanted to make a game that would be somewhat similar to Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy. He wanted to make something that wasn't too accessible and more derived to core fans and action gamers. Eventually, development of the game took place in 2013 right after 3D World, and Miyamoto decided to look for more developers to help, once again, bring him back to games like Mario 64 and Sunshine. Apparently, there were a lot of gameplay ideas and they were even inspired by the different currencies in the world, so that resulted in Mario collecting coins in different areas. Now, to me, you can definitely tell that they took most of 3D World and just added similar aspects from previous games. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all, but it's very evident that they wanted to recreate 64 and Sunshine without actually doing it, at least until later on. But at the very least, they brought new mechanics that I'm gonna go over later. But pretty much, fast forward to October 2017, and it took the world by storm. Now, Mario games aren't really known for the story like Sonic games, but it still sets up the gameplay perfectly. This time, Bowser has captured Peach and plans on forcing her to marry him. You know, something we've seen numerous times, just with a little twist to it. Because of this, Mario now goes around the world in various kingdoms with his new sidekick Cappy. Like I said, throughout the game, you travel a bunch of different areas from New Donk City all the way to Seaside Kingdom, but he also meets Bowser's henchmen in the game, the Gerudos, who try to slow him down, so Mario has to use Cappy's unique abilities in order to save Peach, make sure she isn't forced into marriage, and brought home safely. Now, I never really cared for the story in Mario games because they're more so focused on the gameplay, so I can't really give an opinion on it. And in all honesty, I don't even think I need to. 90% of most mainline Mario games have the same story. Save Peach from Bowser with the occasional change. I don't think it's bad. I think it works fine for Mario games, but how about we save someone else like in 3D World or defeat someone else like Wart in SMB2? Overall, the story's okay for a Mario game, but I just want to see someone else get rescued or defeated in the future. Maybe the next mainline game will make it happen, but who knows? In Mario Odyssey, you have a few new changes from games like Mario Sunshine and 64. They also expanded on the gameplay from 3D World, which I think is a good strategy because that's also a good game and it's the perfect demo for an open world. Did that make sense? Not really. It sounded kinda stupid, but that's what I'm going for. With the moveset, you have your standard moves like ground pound, roll, launch, etc. But here, you have Cappy, a magic hat that lets you take control of other people or inanimate objects. This is actually a very useful tool that I enjoy using because it's probably the most versatile gimmick I ever used in a game. It helps reflect objects, take control of enemy objects, take control of people, and even get over large gaps and/or tight spaces. There are some times where Cappy isn't as responsive, but most of the time, he's still reliable. It would have been cool if they used some of the moves in Smash, but that's a video for another day. I actually like how they did the difficulty here. In this game, the way you change how difficult you want it is primarily by the heart system. If you have the regular 3 bars, then you're on normal mode, but if you have 6 bars, then you're on easy mode, which also lowers the frequency of the enemies. As far as bosses, these are actually pretty fun. I can't even hate. I've always seen open world bosses depicted as hard and challenging, which is why going into this I was a little skeptical. But then I remembered, it's Mario. Sure, there are some times where the bosses can be too fast paced, but once you figure out the first boss, you'll easily get through all of them. Most of the time, you're dodging attacks and using the power from other beings that are under Cappy's control. This is actually a good way to use Cappy in the boss fights, considering that he has a unique and different move every time. So yeah, the gameplay is just fun. I think it's an improvement over 3D World and 64, so there's that. But overall, it's just relaxing and nice. In Mario Odyssey, the levels and gimmicks are actually pretty fun. Let me just say this, the levels themselves are pretty creative. With Cappy being able to take control of living objects and animals, it does help out a lot when it comes to challenges and finding stars. Every level or area requires you to find a power move, so that means you either use a bullet bill to help fly to farther spots, fish to swim underwater, exotic creatures to reach new heights, etc. There are, however, some times where I find myself not really know what to do for a while. I guess that's just the norm for open world games, but it gets confusing as hell a lot of the times. I eventually figure out what I'm doing, but still. My favorite level that I can remember is New Donk City. The city looks nice, which I'll get to later, the zipline mechanic is creative and reliable, and just the overall vibes here are incredible. I also like the reference to the earliest version of Mario and Donkey Kong during the festival. It's not entirely designed to bring old and new fans together, but I like to think of it like that. The other areas are fine like Seaside Kingdom, Steam Gardens, and Tosterena, but New Donk City just has the best vibes and ideas down to almost everything in that area. I think the music and graphics here are pretty fun. With the graphics, they actually hold up well for a game in 2017. I think if we're solely talking about vibes and art style, then I have to say Steam Gardens and Seaside Kingdom are my favorites to look at. When looking at Seaside Kingdom, the water looks incredible and the environment looks majestic. Then with Steam Gardens, the grasslands, trees, clouds, flowers, etc. I was going to talk about New Donk City being one of the best looking levels in the game, but I feel like it's more of a runner-up if anything. Sure, the city looks nice, the daytime elements expand on that, and the festival is great, but compared to the two I just talked about, it's not even close. As far as the music, it's actually catchy as hell. When going back and listening to some of the soundtracks, they're really nice to listen to. The biggest song from this game is obviously Choke Up Superstar, and my personal favorite is Break Free that plays at the end of the game. I think the reason I like this song is because it sounds a lot like Sonic music, but I like it in general because it does something outside the norm for Mario games. A lot of the music is normal for a Mario game, with it having casual upbeat music, but I still like listening to it. Now, we all know that Mario games tend to do pretty well, so I won't spend too much time on it because Odyssey also follows the trend. For starters, a lot of people have regarded this as one of the best Mario games ever, even one of the best video games ever. Review-wise, Metacritic has given it a 97, making it another great Mario game. IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, and a bunch of other review sites gave it almost perfect scores. Sales-wise, the game did so well that it got 1.1 million copies within 5 days, making it the best-selling video game of October 2017. And as far as awards, it got Best Platformer, Best Original Music, Game of the Year, Best Switch Game, etc. With the community aspect, people will still come back to this game frequently as it's become a fan favorite in the last few years. I can confidently say that this is one of my favorite games in general. I even talked about it in my favorite video games video, which I also plan on redoing. The whole reasoning behind making this video was to show that it changed my mind on open world games, and it obviously worked. And even outside of that, it got me invested in more Mario games, which led me to upgrade my collection. So I can confidently say that Mario Odyssey is one of the best Mario games out there. And that's what I think about Mario Odyssey. In my opinion, I think this is a game that's really important, not just in the Mario franchise, but just in general. It does a good job at having a balance of easy and challenging platforming, and also give people who aren't entirely interested in open world games a good reason to try them. I know I mainly talk about Sonic, but I wanted to talk about Mario for a change, and I also have something to say. I'm still doing Sonic content, but I got more Nintendo and Multiversus content between now and the end of the summer. So stick around for that if that's what you've been waiting on. But anyways, I'm gonna end it right here. What do you think of Mario Odyssey? And with that, Zazaz out.